Okay, welcome everyone. As we welcome in Menachem Yemansky, Eddie Chazan, Rabbi Kranz, Yisrael Fisher, Michal Irving Fishbaum, Saba. We welcome in Baruch Ian, Ben Zion Cohn, Ruvain Pollack, Dr. Guy, Ilya Shutman, Mark Frankel, Berish Gesserman, Moshe Lehman, Richard Rosenzweig, Abe Arbach, David Healthcott. Here in Shul, we have Reb Gedalia, and what's your name?
Kraus.
Reb Kraus, joining us here at the Agudas Yisrael Beis Zev of Fearways. And Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg has just joined us for our 21st Zoomer of the evening, of this early evening, sponsored by A.B. Spry, with the tefillah that all children should get. And I just heard that one of our fellow Zoomers just got in a high school girl into the Vin Yeshiva, Baruch Hashem. He was waiting. All children should get into yeshiva quickly and easily without heartache for the parents. Baruch Ian is sponsoring the shir. Ila Nishmas Esther Bas Yomi, Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Avram and Shmuel HaKoyin. And we learn for Rebbetzin Blumenfeld, Chayet Tzipora Bas Rezel, she should have a refuah shalema b'seich shar chayla Yisrael. Moshe Jackman has just joined us, and we begin. It's interesting, Rabbi Isai, the passage of time. As I told you last night, we did the Mishnah Yomis earlier last night because I left the country after the shir last night, and I left. By the time I packed up the car and closed up the bungalow, it was 10 o'clock. I got in about 1:15 here. And so one of the things I did in the car after making phone calls that I needed to do, one of the things is I listened to today's shir from 15 years ago on Kol HaLashon in the Agudas Yisrael of Borough Park. And it's interesting that the passage of time, 15 years ago, the shir was given on the last Thursday night of the year. And I was talking about how you could be masakin with Achana l'Shabbos every Erev Shabbos of the whole year. And, and then I said it was a stormy night, and I said that I have a headache, and that my Rebbetzin, Aleh Hashalom, wanted to come in with me to the Borough Park, and I told her she didn't have to drive, I could drive. And then she said she wanted me to give the shir on Kol HaLashon. See, remember, it's a walk down memory lane. It was really, really fascinating. Anyway, we have a machlokes between Rava and Rav Ashi. According to Rava, if a person says that he's going to give a get if his wife will nurse the baby, so Rava says if he says that min hastam, she has to nurse according to the Tanna Kama 2 years, and according to Rabbi Yehuda 18 months. Rav Ashi says no. Rav Ashi says min hastam, you only have to do it 1 day. If you wanted 2 years, you have to say 2 years. So says the Gemara, Meisveit. Now, it says, here's your get on the condition that you nurse my father 2 years. Or you nurse my child 2 years. Meisaben, if the son dies, or the father says, he says, look, you're not my daughter-in-law anymore. I don't want you. I don't feel comfortable. Shaloi bakpada means she didn't do anything wrong, but ain't a get. It's not a get. Now, Bishleima, it works very good. Rav. Why? Because Reisha b'deloi parish. Reisha is where he just said on the condition that you nurse the child. He didn't say. We said that according to Rava, on the condition that you nurse the child is for 2 years. But he didn't say a yitur lashon. Seifa de parish. In the Seifa, used the Yitur Lashon. He said 2 years. Now, he didn't have to say 2 years, because without saying the 2 years, we know it's 2 years. So what do you mean 2 years? He meant bedavka. If it doesn't happen, so then it's not a get. That's why he said the Yitur Lashon. That's why in the Sefer, in the Reisha, it said that if the child dies, it's a good get. The Sefer, it says it's not a good get. Why? Because in the Sefer he said a Yitur Lashon, 2 years, which he didn't have to say, is insisting that if you don't have the 2 years for whatever reason, it's no good. El Rav Ashi, but according to Rav Ashi, where if he says stam, it's 1 day. He says 2 years, it's 2 years, but there's no Yitur Lashon. He had to say 2 years, otherwise it would be 1 day. El Rav Ashi, Maishna Reisha, Maishna Sefer. In the Reisha, if the baby dies, we say that the get is a good get. In the Sefer, 2 years is like 1 day. There's no extra Yitur Lashon. So why is the Reisha different than the Sefer? Says the Gemara Kasha. That's Takashver. Tan Rabbanan, Harizeg Gitech Al Menashe Tishamshi es Abba Shtei Shanim. Here's your get on the condition that you take care of my father 2 years. Val Menashe Taniki es Bitni Shtei Shanim, or you nurse my child 2 years. Afal Pi Shaloi Niskayim Atanai, even though she didn't nurse the child and didn't take care of the father. Harizeg get. Why? Because the condition is not a good condition because it wasn't a Tanai Kafel. Lefi shaloi amala im tishamshi im like tishamshi. You didn't say it both ways. And this is im taniki im like taniki. If you nurse, it'll be a get, and if you didn't nurse, it's not a get. And according to Rameir, if the tanai is not a tanai kafel, it's not a good condition. And therefore the get is a good get. We don't pay attention to the condition. The chacham nah, you don't need a tanai kafel, and therefore the tanai is very much in effect. And therefore, the Chacham in the sky at Tanai, if the Tanai is fulfilled, there is a get. Vim lav, and if not, ain't a get. Now, Reb Shimon Gamliel says an ambiguous statement now. Reb Shimon Gamliel Aimer, ein loch Tanai b'kesuvim. There's no Tanai in the scriptures, she'enoi kafel. That's not doubled. In other words, by Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain, right? Over there it says that if you go and fight, then you'll get the land in the Transjordan. If you don't go, you won't get. It says, Im Shachav, by the Isha Saita, if you slept, Im Loi Shachav, right? It says in Yeshaya, Im Tovu Ushmatem, or Im Tamanu, if you refuse Umarisen and rebel. So it keeps on saying a kafel. It says both ways. It says we welcome in Mo Kushner, we welcome in Chaim Lerner. Good to see you, Mo. Good to see Nachman Chapler. We are holding, Rabbi Isai, if you're just joining us in progress, by Ikeda Amrei, which is 10 lines from the top of Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, just getting underway on this beautiful Monday evening. Now, the question is, what's Reb Shimon Gamliel adding? So, Ikeda Amrei l'Rameir Kamerle, that he is protesting Rameir. The Ikeda Amrei and others say Ikeda Amrei l'Rameir Kamerle, v'achi Kamerle, and this is what he says: Ein loch t'nai b'ksuvim she'eino kafel. There is no. It's not just in one place by the T'nai b'nei Gad, b'nei Ruvain, and Chatzi Shevet Menashe. It's all over the Torah. And if it's all over the Torah, we have a rule. And that is, Shnei Ksuvin Haboin Ke'echad Ein Melamdim. Because if we learn it out with a binyan of to the whole Torah, then it only needs to say it in one place. If it says it in a few places, it's only there and nowhere else. And therefore he says, I disagree that you need a Tanai Kafel. because ein loch t'nai b'ksuvim she'ena kafel, it's doubled in several places. V'avalu shnei ksuvim abon ke'echad, it's two psukim that teach us the same thing. V'kol shnei ksuvim abon ke'echad, ein melamda, we don't learn out for elsewhere. Ikadamre, others say, no, the Rabbanan Karmelu. He argues with under Rabbanan, and he sides with Rameir. V'hachi Karmelu, he says to them, ein loch t'nai b'ksuvim she'enoi kafel, there is no t'nai that's not doubled in the Torah, v'gamrinon minayo, and we learn out from there. And you'll say, then why does it say it in several places? It's not to tell us that in these places and nowhere else. To the contrary, since the Torah sets that this is the formula of a Tanai, so this is the formula that it uses by all Tanaim. This is not a classic case of Shnei Ksuvim Abon Ke'echad Ein Melamdin. However, now the Gemara asks a stira. Now the Gemara has a stira. V'ramino. Excuse me. V'ramino, harizeh gitech. Here's your get. Almanashe tishamshi is abba shtei shanim, that you take care of my father 2 years. Almanashe toniki es beni shtei shanim, you nurse my child 2 years. Mesa of, the father dies, or mesa ben, or the child dies, ain't a get. Divrei Meir. Now wait a second. The Tanai wasn't doubled. We should disregard the Tanai. And yet Rameir says it's not a get if the child dies. The Chachamim say, Afal pi shaloi niskayim hatanai, even though the condition wasn't met because the child died, how is that get? Why? Because she could say, look, Tein li avi v'Hashem shenu. I'm ready to do it. Give me your father, I'll nurse him. Tein li bincha, give me the child, v'ani kenu, and I'll nurse the child. So kasha de Rameir, it's shver and Rameir, because here Rameir says that if the child is dead, then the Tanai wasn't fulfilled. But it's not a Tanai kafel. And kasha de Rabbanan. Here the Rabbanan say we don't have to fulfill the Tanai, but the Rabbanan don't need a Tanai kafel. So the Gemara says, de Rameir like kasha, because over here it's talking about where there was a Tanai kafel. There was a Tanai kafel. It just doesn't bother to tell it to us because that's not a halakha in Gittin. It's like it says v'chulu. It's like it says etc. In the first case, it's talking about, it says beferish that it didn't double the Tanai. Here it's talking about where he did it with the normal formula. He did do it Tanai kafel. Because who's this going like? It's going according to Shimon Gamliel, who says that the rule is if the akava is not machmas har, it's a good get. Man chacham dahacher Reb Shimon Gamliel. The amar kol akava she'enei mena. If that which withholds the fulfillment of the Tanai is not because of har, how is that get? Now here we have a new case, an interesting 3 lines from the beginning of the wide lines on Ayin Vav Amid Aleph, just getting underway on this wonderful Monday night. We should already get into the habit to give a little extra thought, to learn Torah Lishma, to be Mekayim, the mitzvah d'Rabbat Tabam, because as we get ready for Yom Adin, we know that there's no greater protection than Torah. Torah, Megan, Umatzlai, Ukesris B'fnei HaParanios, but Rameir says in the 6th parak of Pirkei Avos, Kol ha'leimid Torah Lishma, Zaycha L'Dvarim Harva. It has to be Lishma. So we should get into the habit of learning Torah Lishma. So, Tan Rabbana. Amala b'fnei shnayim. He says in front of 2 Eidim, Harizeh gitech almanashe tashamshi is Abba Beishan. So in front of Baruch Ian and Rabbi Kranz, he says that it's a get if she takes care of the father for 2 years. Then, he says in front of Ruvain and Dr. Guy, here's a get on the condition he give me 200 zuz. Says the Gemara, his first statement doesn't negate his second statement. Rather, we say it's an either or. So, you're tied up and you can't nurse my father? Okay, you give me 200 zuz, I'll get somebody else to nurse him. So it's an either or. If you want, you could serve him. But in the next case, it's clearly not an either or. He says in front of Rabbi Kranz and Baruch, here's your get on the condition you give me $200. And then but then he says in front of Ruvain and Dr. Guy, 300. So there we obviously is not saying either or. Nobody says either 200 or 300. He's not nuts. And we don't say it means 200 plus 300, but rather we say that the 300 cancels the 200. Bitel divrei ha'achrain es harishin. Now, she claims there's no tonight. He gave it to me without it tonight. We cannot combine Rabbi Kranz with Dr. Guy. Can't combine one aid from one with an aid from the other. So the Gemara says, ahai, what's this going? It can't be going on 200 and 300, because 200 and 300, Rabbi Kranz and Baruch, their history. He canceled that. That's obvious. Because Rabbi Kranz and Baruch, they're out of the picture. Aribatel. Ela Reisha. It's talking about where Rabbi Kranz and Baruch, he said, on the condition that you serve my father 2 years. In front of Ruvain and Dr. Guy, he said $200. So Rabbi Kranz and Dr. Guy, or Baruch and Ruvain, can't combine. So the Gemara says, Pshita, of course they can't combine. They heard two different things. So the Gemara says, well, maybe they could combine to say that there was some condition. Mao the same kol kiyume t'nai mitzdarfen, to say that there was some condition. Kamash Malon, since it's not on the same thing, they can't combine. Okay? Now, the next Mishnah, the Havamina of how to learn this Mishnah is completely different than the Maskana. When Rashi explains the Mishnah, he explains the Mishnah according to the Havamina of the Gemara. And it's pretty obvious why Rashi does that. Why does Rashi explain according to the Havamina? Why doesn't Rashi explain? Because Rashi wants us to understand the Shakel of Ataria in the Gemara. Rashi wants us to understand how the Gemara thought the Mishnah was to be learned, and then we'll see that we don't learn it that way. Otherwise, if Rashi would explain it according to Maskana, we wouldn't understand what the beginning of the Gemara is talking about. So, I don't want to confuse you. The last thing I want to do is confuse you, but we're going to learn the Gemara now first according to the Havamina, the Mishnah according to the Havamina, and then we'll see that that's not the way to learn the Mishnah. Gedalia, would it really be a trouble for you to give me more water? I'm really sorry about that. While we're waiting for Gedalia, I should mention that I have pretty much finished and prepared the Chumashir on Akev, a very interesting Chumash here for Parashas Akev, but we do not have a sponsor yet. So in the wild blue yonder of Kalaloshin and TorahAnytime.com, I saw that when we got the stats from Eretz Yisrael, that the Chumash here, which is aired live Thursday evening, has over 500 people watching it. And that's besides Kalaloshin and Facebook and us Zoomers and the digital subscribers that I send out after the share to over 100 people. And I send CDs to people. So if you would like to sponsor the share, call me or text me at 718-916-3100 or email me at rmmwsi. Thank you very much. rmmwsi@aol.com. Now, here this guy said as follows. Hari Zegitech, here's your get. Now, the Havamina is, he says, here's your get. If I reach the Galil and I'm not back in 30 days, Hari Zegitech, im loibasi mikan ad shleisha yom. If I don't come back until 30 days, v'yahaylech mi Yehuda leGala, and he was going from Yehuda to Gala, and he said that if I'm not back from Galil in 30 days, then it should be a get. Higia l'Antifris. He reached Antifris, which according to the Havamina of the Gemara was in Galil. So he reached Antifris, v'chazar, and he got back within 30 days, batal to know. Then the condition was not met, and the get is batal. Obviously, if he never got to Galil, the get is still pending if he gets to Galil. But here, the way we're learning is he reached Antifris, which is the beginning of Galil, and he was back within 30 days, so the get is batal. Next case. He says, here's your get. If I make it to Yehuda and I'm not back in 30 days, and he reached Kfar Snai, which the Gemara assumes is the beginning of Yehuda, and he makes it back within 30 days, batal to know. Here's your get. He was going overseas. So he says, if I get overseas and I'm not back within 30 days, you should be divorced. Again, the Havamina is that Akko is the beginning of Chutz La'aretz. And he makes it back, batal tanai. The last case of the Mishnah, which is extremely ambiguous, he says, here's your get. This guy is really, she's suffering already. She's a Lebedik Almana. He's never around. He finally says, here's your get if I'm missing for 30 days. If I'm a no-show for 30 days, you should be divorced. He was coming and going. Since he wasn't with her, how is that get? Now the question is, if he's coming and going, he wasn't away for 30 days. So why should it be a get? So one shot is panecha is a euphemism for intimacy. And it means the panim shel taktain. And what he was saying is, if I'm not intimate with you for 30 days, it should be a get. Even though he was coming and going, but he never was with her, so it's a get. That's one shot. Rabbi Yochanan is going to learn differently, but we'll see that in the Mishnah, in the Gemara. But at this point, we're assuming He said in the first case, as we welcome in Berish, 2 lines from the bottom Berish of Daf Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom of Daf Ayin Vav Amud Aleph. So in this case, we assumed that he said that if I get to Golem and I'm not back within 30 days, you should be divorced. And he got to Antiphris. So which we assumed meant that Antiphris is the beginning of Golem. And that Kfar Asnai is the beginning of Yehuda. So Gemara says, but that's just not the geography. L'meimer dam Tifris begalul avakaima? You think Antiphris is in Galul? V'mini, Antiphris be Yehuda. Antiphris is in Yehuda. Ukvar Usnai, and the village of Usnai is Begalul. Beintayim, the area in between, we're not sure if it's Galul or Usnai or Yehuda. That we're not sure about. So therefore, Matilunai say l'chumra. There we have to say l'chumra that Megureshes. Veina Megureshes. She's divorced. She's not divorced. She's divorced to the point that is a get that she's forbidden to a kayin. But if her husband dies, it might not be a get, and she needs chalitza. But the bottom line is you can't learn the pshat. We learned the pshat is that he said that if I make it to go, and then I'm not back within 30 days, then it's a get. And he got to Antiphris, which we thought meant that he got to Galil. But here we see that Antiphris is not Galil. So therefore, Abaye says it's a whole different pshat. What he said was a 2-pronged thing. He said, if I get to Galil, game over. If I get to Galil, we're divorced. If I don't get to Galil, and I'm not back within 30 days, we're also divorced. And then the Mishnah says he only got to Kfar Asnai, which is in Yehuda. He only got to Antiphris, which is in Yehuda. It's not Galil yet. And he got back within 30 days, so both Tnoim were not fulfilled. He never got to Galil, and he was back in 30 days, so therefore it's not a get. Let's see that inside. Amar Abaye trade Tanoi Kama. He says 2 conditions. Ima tina legalil, if I get to Galil, then game over. La'al to la'avigita. V'ima shtahina b'urchat lasin yoimim, if I'm away 30 days of lo yasina, and I'm not back, also la'avigita. And Sandy Grunfeld and Nachum Roseman are joining us. Says the Gemara, here both Tanaim were not met. Hegil Antiphris, he reached Antiphris. Antiphris is still in Yehuda, the Chazer, and he returned within 30 days. So the Loyle Galil Mata, he never reached Galil, and he wasn't away from the house 30 days, but till Tanai, and the condition wasn't met, and it's not a get. Now the next case, he said, here's a get, and he was traveling from Eretz Yisrael to Medina Sayyam. We thought that pshat is that he said, here's a get, if I make it to Medina Sayyam and I'm not back within 30 days, you should be divorced. And he got to Akko. So we assume that Akko is the beginning of Medina Sayyam. So the get was, the Tanai was activated, but he got back within 30 days, so she's not divorced. Says the Gemara, so the way the Havamina was, is Akko is the beginning of Medina Sayyam. L'meimra da Akko b'Medina Sayyam kaima? Is Akko the beginning of overseas? V'amar Rav Safra ki yomifterei rabbanim me'adadi. When a rabbi was leaving Eretz Yisrael, and the rabbanim wanted to malava him, the last point they would go to is Akko, because they didn't want to leave Eretz Yisrael. You don't leave Eretz Yisrael unnecessarily. So, v'Akko yomifterei, they would only go to Akko. Mishum da'asur latzeis meretz l'chutzar. It's unnecessarily, you're not allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. So you see, Akko is still Eretz Yisrael. So again, Abaye says you learned wrong pshat in the Mishnah. Rather, pshat in the Mishnah is it was two-pronged. He said to his wife, if I leave the land, if I go to Chutz La'aretz, it's game over. It's a get. If I don't go to Chutz La'aretz, but I'm not back within 30 days, it's also a get. So the Mishnah says he reached only Akko, which is still Eretz Yisrael. So he didn't go to Chutz La'aretz, and he was back within 30 days. So therefore, he didn't do any of the two things that he said would activate the get, and therefore, to know about. Let's see it inside. Rabbi trade to know Kamala. He said two stipulations. Either one would result in a get. If I leave the country, game over. La'alta la'avigita. And if I don't make it to Chutz La'aretz, but I'm away for 30 days, also la'avigita. Higil Akko, he only made it to Akko. So he was still in Eretz Yisrael. B'chazar, and he was back within 30 days. So therefore, he never left the country. And he didn't stay away 30 days, but to know the conditions weren't met, and it's not a good get. Now comes the last case of the Mishnah, which is hard to understand. Excuse me. First wide line of Daf Ayin Vav Amud Beis. Hari ze gitech. Here's your get. Kol zman she'ever. Whenever I'm not in your presence, 30 days. And he was going back and forth. So it's a get. Says Gemara, if he was going back and forth, he was never away for 30 days. So Rav Huna says, if I wasn't by your ponecha 30 days, ponecha is referring to the panim hatachton. It's referring to marital intimacy. Amar Rav Huna, my ponecha tashmish. It's intimacy. V'amai kori le ponecha. Why does he call ponecha? Lishna ma'al yanok. He says a more refined speech. Rabbi Yochanan says something else. It doesn't say she's megureshes. It says it's still an active get. That means what Rabbi Yochanan is learning the Mishnah is, he says, here's a get if I'm not present for 30 days. He's coming and going. As long as he wasn't miyached with her, then the get is not made a get yashin. And it's still a good get. They're not divorced. But then if he's away for 30 days, then she'll be divorced. Rabbi Yochanan Amar lo ilam panecha mamish. It doesn't mean pan matach. Mikatani arizum gereshis. It doesn't say she's divorced. She's not divorced. He wasn't away for 30 days. Harizeh get katani. It's still an active, useful get. Do lo have a get yashin. Because, you see, if he would be alone with her, then there would be a suspicion that they had relations and they were appeased, and then the get would be bottled. Since they weren't alone, if he's away for 30 days, indeed, Kanya Kavasi to Rabbi Yochanan. Harizeh gitech kol zman she'ever meneged panecha shloshim yom. There should be a get when I'm not in your presence for 30 days. He was coming and going. Since he wasn't alone with her, Harizeh get, it's still an active get, meaning get yoshin ein chayshin. Why? Says the Gemara, v'leiches shema payis. Says the Gemara, but shouldn't we be concerned that maybe later on he will say, when it says he was hoylech, maybe he'll say that he made up the argument with her, and when she goes and remarries, the husband will come and say that it was really a get yashin, and it could cause a tremendous tragedy. Amar Rabba Baravuna Achi, Amar Abba Mari, Mishmei de Rav. So did Abba Mari say in the name of Rav, but Omer Nemenis Alai Leimer, where he makes the statement beforehand that she is trusted to say, Shaloi Basi, that I didn't come and be Matthias. Now some say that this statement of Abba Mari Mishmei de Rav is said, Ikin Masna Masnisim, Me Achshav Im Loi Basi Mekan Vad Yud Beis Chodesh. If he says from now, if I didn't come back for 12 months, or May Spesech Yud Beis Chodesh, and he died within 12 months, how is that get? Says the Gemara, V'leiches Shema Payis. Or what, you should worry that maybe he came back with him before he died, and he was Matthias. Amar Rabba Barafuna, Achi Amar Abba Mari Mishmei de Rav, but Omer, where he made the announcement, Nemenes Alai Leimer Shaloi Basi. Now, Manda Masla Masnisin on the Mishnah, Kol Shechein HaBraisa, surely on the Braisa's case. But Manda Masla Braisa, in the case of the Mishnah where he was away, he doesn't need to say that, because since he's away, we're not chayshish that he came back. Nobody saw him come back, so therefore we're not chayshish that he came back. Now, new subject. Totally new subject. Here, Chatzkel tells Sarah, here's your get if I don't come back in 12 months. Now, there he was saying, Bapashtas, that the get should be activated after the year. If he's not back after a year, so she should be divorced. And he died during the year, then ain't a get. It's not a get, because the get could only be activated at the end of the year, and at the end of the year is dead. And get la chamisa, so she's not divorced, and therefore she would fall a yibam. However, if he said retroactive, from now, retroactive, if I don't come back in 12 months, and he dies during the 12 months, so therefore, now at the end of the year, he didn't come back, so it's retroactive from the time that he's alive, then harizeh get, it's a good get, and therefore she wouldn't fall a yibam, because at the time of death she wasn't married to him. Now here, it gets more complicated. Here, he's giving instructions when the get should be written. If I don't come back in 12 months, kisvu utnu get lishti. Write and deliver a get to my wife. And what they did is they wrote the get during the year. Kasvu get b'soich yud beis chodesh. V'nosnu la'acha yud beis chodesh, and they gave it after the year. Ain't a get. It's not a good get, because he said clearly, write it and deliver it only after the 12 months. And they wrote it during the 12 months. Oh, but now we talk about a more ambiguous language. Kisvu get b'soich yud beis chodesh. Write the get. Excuse me. Kisvu, write it. Utnu get leishti. Write it and deliver a get to my wife. Im loibasi mikan ad yud beis chodesh. Now here, it depends where we put the comma. We could read it, kisnu to get lishi, write it and deliver it if my wife doesn't come back in a year. If I don't come back in a year. Or we could write it, kisvu now. Utnu get liishti, im loibasi mikan ad yud beis chodesh, and deliver it if I don't come back. So the Tanakama says, B'pashtus, it means write it and deliver it if I don't come back. So again, Kisvu b'seich yud beis chedesh, if you wrote it during the 12 months, the nos lach yud beis chedesh and a get. Rabbi Yosi says kizeh get, because we could translate it as a comma. Kisvu, write it now. Utznu get leishti im leibasi mekan ad yud beis chedesh. Now, let's say they did everything right. Kisvu lacha yud beis chedesh. They wrote it after the year. V'nosnu lacha yud beis chedesh. And they delivered it after the year. And then umeis. And then he died. So when did he die? If he died after the get was delivered, so she's divorced. If the get was delivered after he died, then she's not divorced, because they didn't get lacha misa. So im I get kaidem lamisa, if the get was before he died, how is that get? V'misa kadma get, but if he died before the get was delivered, ain't a get. But what if we don't know? No, it's the get was delivered to her, and he was found dead. Unfortunately, people are found dead. People live alone. My first Rebbitzin had an Aunt Florence, Aleh Shalom. She should have menucha, should be covered. She lived alone. She was over 90. She was fiercely independent. And we found her dead. We don't even know how long she was dead. Right? So here, they delivered her the get, and they found the husband is dead. We don't know if the get was before or was after. So if the get was before the death, so it was a good get, and she's forbidden to a kayin. If the get was after death, it's not a good get, and she falls liyibam. So therefore, she's forbidden to a kayin, and she needs chalitza, a suffix. Maybe it wasn't a good get. Tana, we'll learn to the Brisa. Rabbi Seinu hitiru alinase. In a case where he said, Hare ze gitech, here's your get. Im loibasi mekan vad yud beis chedesh. If I don't come back in 12 months, or meis b'seich yud beis chedesh, and he died during the 12 months, so our Mishnah says it's not a get. But the rabbis, we'll see who the rabbis are, permitted her to marry. They say that it is a good get. And she doesn't fall l'chalitza yibum. She can get married right away. It says that harizeh get im loibasi yud beis chedesh, so it's mashma that it's chal only after the 12 months, and after the 12 months he's already dead. How could it be a good get? So we'll see that the rabbis hold, like Rabbi Yosi, that zmanai shel shtar moichiach alav. Since the get has the date from when it was given, so therefore it's retroactive, even though it didn't say me'achshav. Man Rabbi saying, who's the rabbi? Am Rabbi Yehuda Meshmul Bein Dina Deshara Mishcha. That's a bezdin of that permitted shem and shalakam. They weren't geyser stam shmonim like they were geyser stam yayin. There wasn't geyser that shem and akum is also because of a worry of assimilation. And this is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the grandson of Rebbe. Savilak Rabbi Yosi. They have the opinion of Rabbi Yosi. That the Zman of the Shtar shows that it was meant to be retroactive and not only after the 12 months. Now we'll stop over here. We're going to continue into tomorrow's daf. Probably tomorrow's daf will be back up in the mountains at 8:40. And of course on zoomdaf.com. Again, we are looking for a sponsor for the Ekev Shir this Wednesday. Text me, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. And now we're going to learn the Mishnah Yomi.